My friend, that hurt. A beloved figure of the Eagles is leaving, and the news has just been confirmed behind the scenes. There was no press conference, no official announcement, but I was able to exclusively learn the reasons behind this decision. And before I tell you everything, if you love this era as much as I do, like and subscribe now, because this departure will touch your heart. The Philadelphia Eagles 2025 season is shaping up to be a trial by fire, with many unknowns to be resolved, especially on the defensive line. In a move that seemed like the perfect strategic move, the Eagles bolstered their pass rush with a bold signing. However, as time goes on, some decisions begin to prove riskier than expected. The story of Aziz Ojelari, a former New York Giants standout, is the most emblematic of that season of crucial decisions. With the loss of key players like Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and veteran Brandon Graham, the Philadelphia Eagles needed a new pass rusher who could shine on the defensive line. That's when Ojelari was signed, a player with a history of explosiveness in past seasons, especially in 2021, when he reached the 8-sack mark. With this resume, his arrival was met with optimism. After all, the Eagles need a talent capable of making an immediate impact and taking the defense to new heights. However, looking at the current situation, Ojelari's history with the Eagles has taken a different turn than anticipated. Bleacher Report's Gary Davenport projected that the defender could be cut before the 2025 regular season even begins. According to Davenport's analysis, Ojelari's biggest problem has been a lack of consistency since arriving in Philadelphia. Persistent injuries and a difficult adjustment to the new tactical scheme have prevented the pass rusher from finding the same explosive rhythm that made him a star during his time in New York. The situation became even more complicated when newcomers like Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt began to shine, pushing Ojelari into an uncomfortable position on the depth chart. It's no longer a surprise that Ojelari is behind these promising players, but what's truly striking is the fact that even veterans who underperformed, like Josh Uche, outperformed Ojelari in the draft process. For a player who was seen as a potential star on the defensive line, this reversal of positions is a significant setback. The big question now is, what did the Eagles really see in Ojelari, and what can he still offer the team? When the Eagles acquired him, they believed he would be a dynamic pass rusher capable of making an immediate impact. However, injuries and difficulties adapting to Philadelphia's defensive system have jeopardized that plan. For the Eagles, the search for a quick fix for the pass rush doesn't seem to have worked so far. And while the salary cap impact of Ojelari's potential departure may be minimal, the psychological and strategic impact could be much greater. The defense needs players ready to shine, and you can't expect much from someone who is currently struggling to establish himself. The truth is, Ojelari's future with the Eagles is a real conundrum. While he has the talent, the clock is ticking. With mounting pressure and a fierce competition for position, Ojelari needs to find a way to prove he's still the same explosive player he was in New York. Will he be able to bounce back and live up to the high expectations surrounding him? Or will the Philadelphia experience end up being a brief and frustrating chapter in his career? In the coming days, a critical decision will be made. The Eagles are preparing for the 2025 regular season, and Ojelari's roster position will be one of the biggest question marks. What appears to be a high-risk experiment may actually be a chance for redemption for a talented player. But ultimately, the Eagles' strategic decisions will determine Ojelari's fate. If he doesn't show quick results, the cut could be decisive. Like any risky experiment, Ojelari's future with the Eagles is fraught with uncertainty. One thing is certain, he's not in the spotlight, and the pressure is mounting every day. But it doesn't stop there, my friend. The decision not to select Justin Jefferson in the 2020 NFL Draft has become one of the biggest regrets of Howie Roseman, general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. In a candid conversation on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, Roseman didn't hesitate to admit that this was one of his biggest mistakes. The player who was becoming one of the league's biggest stars and who could have changed the course of the Eagles' history was overlooked, and the selection ultimately resonated as a colossal mistake. In 2020, the Eagles were searching for an elite wide receiver to complement their offense. The franchise already had A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, but the goal was to recruit someone capable of changing the game's dynamic. Justin Jefferson was available. His college numbers were impressive, but the decision was made not to prioritize him. And then, the Minnesota Vikings, with the 22nd overall pick, made a simple but decisive decision. They drafted the talented LSU player, and since then, Jefferson has become an unstoppable force in the NFL. From the moment he stepped onto the field, it was clear his potential was immense. Records were broken, and Jefferson established himself as one of the league's best wide receivers. In 2022, he was named NFL Offensive Player of the Year, and with his impressive performance, he became the fastest player to surpass 7,000 career receptions. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, Roseman can't forget what could have been. Reflecting on the mistake, he stated, "That's obvious. A guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Mistakes kill me. It makes you think, why are we picking certain guys?" Roseman's words make clear the weight these these mistakes carry, especially when we see Jefferson's impact on the game. While the Eagles have reaped the rewards of a Super Bowl victory and remain one of the strongest teams in the league, the idea that Jefferson could have been part of this team makes Roseman wonder, what if things had been different? Jefferson's impact at any given moment is undeniable. What he brought to the Vikings, and consequently to the NFL, goes beyond the numbers. He changed the offensive dynamics of his era and the league itself. The Eagles' success in other areas, such as the Super Bowl title and their consistent playoff presence, doesn't erase Roseman's praise. The absence of Jefferson is a hallmark that haunts the executive's mind. And, as he looks to the future, the question remains, what could have been if Jefferson had been part of the Eagles roster from the beginning? This moment, when Roseman shares his frustration, is a stark reminder that, in the fast-paced world of the NFL draft, one wrong pick can define the future of a franchise. And for Howie Roseman, Justin Jefferson will always be that face who slipped through his fingers, casting a shadow over a brilliant but perhaps still incomplete career. And it didn't stop there. With the 2025 NFL preseason beginning, the Philadelphia Eagles are in the midst of some crucial roster decisions. After 2 days of joint workouts with the Cleveland Browns, the focus is on depth players who could prove capable of securing spots on the final 53-man roster. The cornerback position, in particular, is a point of contention. The battle for the number 2 cornerback position between Adoree Jackson and Kelly Ringo hasn't yet generated the confidence fans and analysts had hoped for. While both players have potential, neither has excelled enough to completely dominate the position. It may be time to explore outside options, especially if they don't want to rely on players like Eli Ricks or Jacorian Bennett, who still have a lot to prove. The wide receiver corps is another area where competition is fierce. Players not named A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith are vying for roster spots. Players like Jahan Dotson, Johnny Wilson, and Darius Cooper are giving their best, but only time will tell if they can secure their spot. The real question, however, is, will any of these wide receivers be traded before the season starts? As training camp progresses, this situation could turn into a frenzy of negotiations. Defensive line depth, especially after key departures like Sweat and Graham, also remains a hot topic. Aziz Ojelari's struggles have already been mentioned, and it's clear that more reinforcements will be needed before the season starts. Could Howie Roseman be calling to bring in another defensive force? And then there's the tight end position. With 7 tight ends currently on the roster, the Eagles face the daunting task of narrowing that group down to 3. Kylen Granson appears to have the edge over E.J. Jenkins and others, but will the Eagles actually keep 3 tight ends this year? With so much still up in the air, the remaining preseason games and practices will be needed to determine the final roster. The Eagles are coming off a strong Super Bowl run, but it's clear they'll need some of these under-the-radar players if they want to have another successful season. Based on the unexpected moves involving Aziz Ojelari, Howie Roseman's concern about not drafting Justin Jefferson, and the intense preseason battles, what impact will these decisions and changes have on the Eagles' immediate future? Will they find the right formula to reach another Super Bowl? Or could these mistakes and uncertainties cost them dearly in the 2025 season? Leave your opinion here, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later to update you with the latest Eagles news.